Okay, we're on base on the base, 2 lines from the bottom, where it says Esvei. What's the more asking a kasha? We had a member before, a Shaila. Rav Acha Bar Huna asked a Shaila from Sheshis, what's the halacha that a kohen who's Meshamish does avoida while he's tamei? Is he chayim misivdei shemayim or is he not chayim misivdei shemayim? And Rav Sheshis brought a raya from our sugya that he's not chayiv. From our Mishnah, he's not chayiv misivdei shemayim, because if he was chayiv misivdei shemayim, why are the Birkei Kuna taking him out? Then bopping him over the head with the pieces of wood, he's going to be nifter anyway from the Rebbeinu Shalom. So why should they do it? So the Gemara says Rav Shesha says, so you see there's no misivdei shemayim. In fact, the Gemara Esvei, I'll ask you a kasha. The Gemara is going to list a whole bunch of avodas in the Beis Hamikdash, and the Gemara is going to say that you're not chayiv on those alts being tamei, and then the Gemara is going to say which ones you are chayiv being tamei. We're going to see what's going on over here, but this is a long brayso with a lot of tangential things. But we're going to get back to our kasha soon. What's the brayso? Esvei, we ask a kasha. Hayetzek, somebody who pours oil on top of the carbon mincha. He mixes the mincha with oil. He crumbles up the mincha, the kind that were baked. He crumbles them up into small pieces. And he puts the salt on the mincha. Hamenif, he waves the mincha, does tenufa on it, and umagish and hamagish, and then he brings it close to the mizbeach to touch the corner of the mizbeach. Masadras shulchan, that's all talking about carbon mincha. Now, masadras shulchan, the person who is masadr sets up the shulchan of the lechem apanim. And hametivas aneris, somebody who going to the menorah now, somebody who prepares the neirs for the menorah. V'akaimetz, somebody does the kvitza for the mincha. V'mekabel damim, and someone who is mekabel the blood of the carbon b'chutz outside the Beis Hamikdash. Pater, in all these cases, is going to be pater. Ve'en chayavon aleihen lo mishum zaras, lo mishum tumav, lo mishum chasr begadim, lo mishum richas yadayim v'raglayim. You're not going to be chayiv anything of these 4 isurim. What are the 4 isurim? You're not chayiv al zaros. If you're a zar, if the person is a zar, who's not a kohen, and he does any of these particular avodas, he won't be chayiv. If he's tam and he does any of these avodas, he won't be chayiv. Let's say he's a kohen, he's not tamei, but he's missing one of his begadim. He doesn't have his avnate on, let's say, the gartel, right? He doesn't have that on.
Does a regular kohen have a problem with that if he doesn't come to the Beis?
He's a regular kohen, and it's a problem. He's got to wear a begadim. It's an isser to do it without the begadim. So he's not wearing his begadim. So the halach is that he's not going to be chayav al chosr begadim for these particular avodas. And not because of washing his hands or feet. The kohen, before he does the avodah, is mechayiv to wash his hands and feet. Let's say he didn't wash his hands and feet. That's what the kira was for, and he did one of these avodas. He won't be chayav. So the Gemara says, the sprach of the Gemara of the Brisa was the last words on Amud Beis is ein chayavan alein. And why are we not chayiv? Rashi explains all these avodas we learn out from drasha. Gemara Masechta Yoma learns it out that these avodas are not avodas that are complete. They have avodas that have another avodah after them. An avodah that leads up to a different avodah is not the avodah that these isurim are set over, but something that is the end avodah, like for example, let's say haktara, burning the animal on the mizbeach. That if he did these things, he would be chayiv al tzaros. He would be chayiv with if he didn't wash his hands. He would be chayiv al tuma, right?
Yeah, there's 2 different differences. One is what you said that the main thing would be chayiv on what kind of actions.
The kind of action that is an end to itself, that doesn't lead to a different action. L'mashal, when you take the meat on the mizbeach and you burn it.
It's done. After that's finished.
It's done. That's the only thing.
As opposed
to mixing the oil into the mincha.
I got it.
Right?
And results.
Yeah. So hamiktar. So the Gemara is medayik like this. If you are maktir, let's say you're maktir the mincha on the mizbeach, the kmitza on the mizbeach, and the person did it when he was a tamei, or he was a zar, or he didn't wash his hands, or he didn't have all 4 begadim of the kuhuna on, then he'll be chayiv. My lav misa l'chayra means be chayiv misivdei shemayim. So you see that Rav Sheshes, who said that it would be patur from Misvei Shemaim, you have a brayso not like that. He's chayiv. That's the Gemara's kasha. The Gemara says loy b'azhara. It doesn't mean he's chayiv Misvei Shemaim. It means he's chayiv a lav. He's over a lav. In fact, the Gemara elazar nami lazhara. You're going to tell me, if you're telling me that when it says chayiv it's a lav, then when it's not chayiv it's nothing, right?
As opposed to being like something less serious.
What was that?
As opposed to something less serious.
I'm sorry. I skipped a little. The Gemara says elazar nami lazhara. So you're going to tell me, if you're telling me that this, when it says chayiv for tuma, it means chayiv for everything a lav, not misa. So then by azar also you're saying that when he's chayiv, let's see, he did the haktara, which is the end avodah, he'll be chayiv. What's he going to be chayiv? He's going to be chayiv a lav, nothing more than a lav. It can't be. The pasuk is mefurish. V'azar karav yumas. The zar who does the avodah is going to be put to death. He's going to get mitzvah shemayim. So then, how could you say that chayiv means only the lav? Because you see, by the zaros, by the zar, it doesn't mean only lav. The Gemara, no, hakadisa v'akadisa. When it's talking about when you're chayiv misa, you're chayiv misa. When you're chayiv alav, you're chayiv alav. And the brayso just says, "Ein chayavin aleihen." You're not chayiv by these cases, but in the case by haktara, you would be chayiv. What are you going to be chayiv? By yizar, you're going to be chayiv misa. By a tama, you only be chayiv alav. Each one as appropriate. Like you say, a whole list of things, and you say as relevant, right? Whichever way it's relevant, that's the way you do it. So over here also, when it says Yechayiv, means by Zaros it means Yechayiv alav, misa, and by Tumah it means Yechayiv alav, and you're not Chayiv misa. And then the Gemara says, then I don't have a kasha anymore on Rav Sheshes, because Rav Sheshes says he doesn't get misa. From this price, you don't have a raya that he does get misa. In fact, the Gemara. So if you're going to say this, if you're saying this, that when it said by Tumah that you're chayiv for haktara, the implication was that by tumah you're chayiv for haktara. You're not chayiv by these other things that aren't an end to themselves. But by haktara, which is the end to itself, you're going to be chayiv. And what are we going to be chayiv? You're going to be chayiv alav. Which means in the cases where you're not chayiv, yaitzeik and bailel and paises and meleach, all the ones that the Bryce listed before, you're not going to be chayiv anything. Right? You're not going to be chayiv anything. It's not even alav. In fact, the Gemara Vatani, we're going to the Bryce that it is allowed. What's the Bryce to say? Azhara liyetzik u'bayla minayin. How do you know the azhara, the lav for yetzik and bayla, that a person can't do it if he's tamei? Tam lemer kedoshim yuv lo yichalu. Pasuk says kedoshim to you. So it is a lav. You're telling me it's not even a lav, right? But it's not true. It is a lav. Yeah, you have a brisa. The Gemara, no. Really, midrabanan. It's only an isra midrabanan. Across machta ba'alma, and the pasuk is just an asmachta. So you still don't have a raya that it's going to be chayiv misa. So far everything is good for Sheshes. You have a brayso that seems to say not like him, but we answered all those seems to say not like him, so you don't have a raya. So for the Gemara, I have a different kasha. Meisa ask a kasha ve'elu hin shebemisa. Tamei sheshimish. It says who gets misvei shemayim, and one of the things it lists is tamei sheshimish, that a tamei who did the avodah, you see, he gets misvei shemayim. It's like Gemara Tufta, it's taka kash on him, because here's a brayso that says mefurish that a tamei who did the avodah will get misvei shemayim. Now, this brayso Eluhin Shebemisa is a much longer brayso, and it lists 10 things or 15 things that are get misvei shemayim, and a couple that don't get misvei shemayim. And the Gemara, since we brought it down over here, the Gemara is going to say the whole brayso. Kufu we learned before. Elu Shebemisa. These are the things that get misvei shemayim, and it's going to start listing a bunch of them. Eichles a tevel. Somebody who eats tevel. Tevel is food that the Trumas and Maestros were not taken from. V'kayin tamei shachol truma taira. A kayin who is tamei, but he ate truma that's tar. So a kayin is allowed to eat truma. A kayin who is tamei is not allowed to eat truma. So here he had truma taira, which is perfectly good truma, kosher truma, and a regular kayin who's not tamei should have eaten it. He was tamei and he ate it. He's going to get misvei shemayim. V'zar shachlas truma.
The truma called tamei the minute he touches it. If the kayin is tamei and he touches the truma.
It's a good kasha. The Gemara asks this elsewhere, and the Gemara says, I want to say that one teretz Gemara says, I don't remember the specific Gemara. One teretz says that someone stuck it down his throat. Right? Yeah. So in his base abliya. Yeah, but I think there's other roots also. Like for example, there are ways that you could eat that it won't be, or tumas that you could be that you won't be matama I think the kash is a good one. The teichel bebeis abliya I think is one teretz, but I think there are more. So kain tami shachol truma tayra, kain tami ate truma tayra, v'zar shachlas a truma, and a zar, someone who's not a kain who ate truma, v'zar shashimesh, a zar who did avodah, so he's not a kain and he did avodah in the Beis Hamikdash. V'tamei shashimesh, this is what we had before, the person, a kain who's tamei who did avodah in the Beis Hamikdash. Utful yoim shashimesh, utful yoim means that he already went to the mikvah and he's ready to go become tahar, but has to wait until Shkia. Remember, the very first Amud in Brachas, Daf Yomi, talks about a Tvol Yayim. Somebody who is a Kain and doing the Avodah, but he's not wearing all the 4 begadim or the 8 begadim if he's a Kain Gadol. V'chusar kapara, somebody who's missing a kapara that does Avodah. In other words, it means that they're chayiv to do a particular carbon for a kapara. One example is a Yaledas. But this wouldn't be able to avoid anyway. I think an example would be what?
Doing the carbon for her, no? How's it doing the carbon for your
No, every time a Kohen brings a carbon for Yeledes, he's doing it for her, and she's not tar. She's waiting for the Shemachasar Kabara, waiting for the carbon. Now this means that the person themselves, maybe an example would be a nazir. A nazir has to bring a chatas, depending on the scenario, has to bring a chatas afterwards. And the Gemara talks about whether that's ma'akiv or not. The Gemara and nazir has a whole arichas back and forth. But if you hold that, but either way, he needs to bring that carbon. And if he didn't bring that carbon yet, even though he's tar, but he did the avodah, he's going to get misvei shemayim. Somebody didn't wash his hands and feet before the avodah. Somebody who drank wine, too much wine, like we had by the sons of Aaron HaKohen, Nadav and Avihu, who were nifter because they drank wine. Ufrui Reish, and Kaihanim who let their hair grow long. The halacha is a Kain has to take hair cut every 30 days, exactly. And if he doesn't, he's not allowed to do the avodah. So all those cases I have to get a misvei shemayim. Aval, but Arel, somebody who's did not get a bris milah, not because he doesn't want to get a bris milah, but he had brothers who died after they got their bris milah. He's from a hemophiliac family. It's a chazaka, so the halacha is he doesn't bring them bris milah. He's an einus.
He can't be. He's a kain. He can't do anything.
But if he's a kain, he can't do the avodah either. So, but this Arel did do the avodah.
Those kids be regular to him?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think it's any problem. It's not a psul in him. It's not psul in his lineage. It's just he himself can't do that avodah because he's an Arab. The Einan is somebody who has one of his Zayin Kroiv and his close relatives were nifter that day. The Yoshev and somebody who's sitting. Allah is, we're going to see later, that the person has to stand when he's doing the avodah. So this person sat and shechted the sheep. All these cases, you're not allowed to do them, but Einan b'misa el basara. They don't get misvei shemayim, they just get a lav. Balmum, what if someone was a kind of a balmum and he did the avodah? Rabbi Amr b'misa. Rabbi says that he gets misvei shemayim. The Chum basara, and the Chum say he only gets a lav. Hizid b'mi'ilah, somebody was mazid and did mi'ilah. Rabbi Amr b'misa, Rabbi says he gets misvei shemayim. The Chum basara, and the Chum say it's palav. That's the brisa. Now, the Gemara wants to know, how do we know all these things? How do you know that somebody who eats tevel is the fruit that didn't have its shumas and maestros taken from it? He's going to get a misvei shemayim.
Regular person, no kain enough.
This is what I was about to say. This could be a kain, this could be a regular person. Nobody's allowed to eat tevel. So how do you know it? Shmuel said name Rav Lazar. How do you know somebody who eats tevel gets misvei shemayim? The pasuk says, you shouldn't be mechal the holy things of the Bnei Yisrael, that they are taking truma to Hashem. Yerubu is literally, truma is called a harama. You're taking something from something else, right? That's what we call truma. So you remove the Torah is using the same lashon that you raise up for Hashem, like you ramal kol dayim Hashem, right? So the Gemara says, let's taichet. The asidim litra makasim medaber. The pasuk is talking about its future tense, the people who will be Torah. Well, let's go back to the pasuk. What says? V'yichalos kach b'nei Yisrael, is asher yorimu, that they will take truma, and it says yorimu. What do you mean? The stuff that you will take truma for, it means it's still tavel because you didn't take the truma yet, and it calls it yorimu when you eat it. So you see that even the truma, even the tevel that didn't have truma taken off of it, it's going to get chayav misa. I'm sorry. That's how you see the isser. And how do you know that it's going to be misa? The yalef chilul mitruma, and you learn at Xer Shava. It says lo yichalalu, and you say by truma. It says. Mishamras Mishmarti Umeisu Baiki Chalalumi. So you learn at the Lashon Chilul to Xer Shava. Malalan B'Misa, and just like by Truma, it's with Misa because by Truma it says Befurish Umeisu Baiki Chalalu. They'll die if they don't treat Truma properly. So here also is with Misa B'Dei Shemayim. Afkan B'Misa, here also is Misa. So now this is how we know that a person who eats Tavel is going to be Chayiv Misa B'Dei Shemayim, because you learn it out from a pasuk that's mashma that it's usher even before you took the truma, not even specifically before you took the trumas hamaisros. And since it says chilul by tevel, which is that pasuk, and it says chilul by truma, you learn that just like by truma is mistvei shemayim, somebody eats tevel is mistvei shemayim. In fact, the Gemara, you learning at that Xer Shava v'neil chilul menaiser. By Neiser, there's a pasuk that says chilul. By Neiser, it says Neiser is somebody who left carbon overnight, or not necessarily overnight, past the point that you're allowed to leave it before it gets its quote unquote expiration date.
Finish it, or
you have to finish it. You can't leave it around. And if you do leave it around, you have to burn it. Right? So
leaving it around, then you have to burn it.
What?
Burn it, be able to burn it.
Yeah, this is the famous makor from Lava Nitiklasei. Gemara says, pasuk says, what you did leave over, don't leave over until morning. That's the lav. And what you did leave over, you have to burn in fire. That's the Nitiklasei. And in every case of Lava Nitiklasei, you don't give malchus, like the Gemara says. So, but the Gemara's kasha over here is the pasuk by Neisar also says the word chilul. Pasuk by Neisar says, the person who eats the Neisar is going to get an avera because he was chilal. Again, the same word. He was mechalal the kodesh of Hashem. And that person is going to get karas nichrosa. So, frak the Gemara, let's learn a chilul minaiser. Let's learn a chilul from Neisar. And malalan bekaras, afkan bekaras. And say just like over there it's karas, over here also it's karas. And by somebody who eats tevel should get karas, not misivdei shemaim. Karas is more chamer than misivdei shemaim. Karas he dies by 50. Misivdei shemaim he dies by 60. Karas his kids his kids don't survive. By misivdei shemaim his kids do survive. So let's learn out from Neisar and say that it's a more chamer than einish. Where it says no, it makes sense to say, it's as far to say that you should learn it from Truma. Shekain, and the Gemara is going to list a list of attributes that Truma and Tevel have that Truma and Neisar do not have. And therefore the Gemara is going to say, let's learn out Tevel from Truma because they're so similar, and not learn out Tevel from Neisar because they're not as similar. And what are these attributes? Shekain Truma, because they're both Truma. In other words, Truma is Truma, and Tevel is food that has Truma mixed into it. So they're both Truma, essentially. Right? It's mixed in, but there's Truma there. Neisar doesn't have any Truma in it. Right? Chutz la'aretz. They're both not negay. They're both not negay and chutz la'aretz, and Neisar is negay and chutz la'aretz because before they came to the base to Eretz Yisrael, you still had Neisar in the midbar, right? Hutra, it's Hutra is by itself. Hutra means that by Tevel and Truma, you're going to have a heter for it. In other words, by Tevel, you could have a heter for the Isser by taking the Truma. You have to have all its Asr. Take the Truma and Meiser off, now it's Mutter. And by somebody who eats Truma B'Tumah, I should have said before. I should have made it underline it. When it says to learn that from Truma, we're learning it from the pasuk of by Tuma. By Truma, if you eat Truma when you're tamei. So by Truma, when you're tamei, you eat Truma. That's a problem. That's an isser, right? But you can have a heter to that. Before you eat it, go into the mikvah. You have a tower. Then you can eat it. And nicer.
Nicer you can. Nicer finished.
Nicer is nicer, right? So tevel you could be mater, and tumah you can be mater, but nicer you can't be mater. Birabim is the lashon is birabim. What's that? It says by truma the lashon is of lo yichalalu. And by tevel the pasuk is lo yichalalu as kach bnei Yisrael. Yichalalu is lashon rabim, and by truma it says mesu b'ki yichalaluhu. That's also lashon rabim. Masha'in came by Naisar. The pasuk says.
No,
it's the lashon of yichalaluhu. It's the lashon is. So Truma makes sense to learn. Tevel makes sense to learn from Truma, which are both lashon rabim, rather than from Naisar, which is lashon yachid. And the next one is Peiros. That by Tevel and by Truma, what are they? Even when you eat Truma, they're fruit, right? That's the same thing. But Naisar is meat. It's a different type of thing. Pigol. That tevel and truma and tevel don't have the musig of pigol, where if you're thinking of a machshava zara, you're going to eat it outside the Yerushalayim, let's say, or outside the azara, it becomes pasal. So that does not exist by tevel or by truma, eating someone's truma tmeya, but it does exist by naisar. So it's another difference. And the last one is v'naisar. Naisar itself, if you leave it over, you get an isser. By truma and by tevel, there's no such thing as leaving it over, right? So you see all these parallels between Naisar and between tevel and someone eats truma while he's tamei, but they're all different by Naisar. So that's why you should learn that from somebody who eats truma when he's tamei and say it's misbeh shemayim. In fact, other way around. You should learn from Naisar. Why? Because there are some things that are uniquely similar between tevel and Naisar that are not by tevel and truma. What are they? Because she came paisel eichel, because the Naisar and tevel, both of them, the food that you're going to eat becomes pasal. Right? You leave a carbon over, it becomes nicer, then the food is pasal. Tevel, it's pasal, you can't eat it, you can't eat the food. That's one thing. Ein le heter b'mikvah. They both don't have a heter in mikvah. Naisar doesn't. You don't go to mikvah. The food doesn't. It's expired. You can't do anything with it. And tevel also, there's no heter in mikvah. If you go into the mikvah and you want to eat tevel, it doesn't work. If you put the tevel into the mikvah, it doesn't work. But by truma tamei, somebody's eating truma while he's tamei, he could go into the mikvah and now he could eat the truma. So that's another similarity between tevel and naisar. So you have these two unique similarities. Mara says, no, let's count them. The first set we said, there are more of those. I think there were 7. And here there's only 2. So you go based on which are more, and therefore you learn at tevel from somebody who's truma while he's tamei, that'll be chayv misivei shemayim, and not from naisar that is chayv karas. Ravina says you don't even need to say, you don't need to count the odds over here. Why? Because chil drab mechil drab madef. The drasha that the words chilaluhu and chilalu, that shvot lashon rabim, makes much more sense in Gzer Shava than chilalu to chilel, which is lashon yachid. And therefore he says you don't even need those other reasons. This is enough reason to say that you learn out tevel from somebody's truma when he's tamei. Okay, next thing in the brisa. The kayin tamei she'achal truma tayra. Somebody who's a kayin and he's tamei, and he had truma, which is tahar. No, and how do you know that he's chayav mitzvah shamayim? The Amar Shmuel said, "V'nayin l'kamei tamei kayin tamei sha'afal truma tahara shum b'mitzvah shamayim." How do you know a tamei kayin who ate truma tahara is chayav mitzvah shamayim? The Ksiv the pasuk says, "V'shamru es mishmarti." They should watch my watch. V'yisu alav chet v'goymer, and they will not have any avera if they watch their watch. And the pasuk continues, umeisu and they'll die with it. Ki yichalu because they're mechalel it. Ani Hashem mekadosh. This is Hashem. I'm Hashem who's mekadosh them. So what does it mean? It's talking about kohanim who are tamei, and it says the end of the pasuk is umeisu ki yichalu. If they're mechalel kachim, when they eat it, they're going to die. So you see that somebody who's a kohen who's tamei and eats truma tahara, he'll be chayiv mitzvah shemayim. Now Shmuel says another halacha. Tahara in Tmei Alai. This that we said that it's going to get mitzvah shemayim is if he's tahar, if the truma that he's eating is tahar.
He's tamei.
The kohen is tamei and the truma is tahar. However, Tmei Alai, if he's tamei and the truma is tamei, then he's not chayav mitzvah shemayim. Amar Shmuel, Amar Rav Elazar. Shmuel said the name of Rav Elazar. Amar the kohen tamei shafal truma tmei she'enim b'misa. How do you know a kohen who's tamei, who ate tamei truma, he's not chayav mitzvah shemayim? Shenemar the pasuk says, "Meisu b'ki chalalu." He should die. He should die because of this, because he was mechalel it. Prat lezu shemchalal s'vayim medus, excluding the case where he ate truma that's already tamei, it's already chulin or chilal. So since this is mechalal s'vayim medus, you're not going to be chayav mitzvah shemayim. Next part of the Mishnah. Azar she'achal es truma. Azar, he's not a kohen and ate truma, gets mitzvah shemayim. Amar Rav says, Azar she'achal es truma loika. Azar that ate truma is loika, gets malchus. Right away, you should be asking, what do you mean? This Mishnah that said he gets mitzvah shemayim. Gemara is going to ask that soon. Amar Rav says, Zar she'achal es truma loika. Azar who ate truma gets malchus. Amri le Rav Kana of Rav Asli Rav. Rav Kana and Rav Asa came to Rav and asked the kasha. Leima marva misa. You should say that we're talking about misa, that a zar should eat truma she'episnei the ksiv, because the pasuk says v'chol zar liyechol kaidesh, a zar should not eat kaidesh. Ani Hashem mekadsha. I'm sorry, v'chol zar liyechol kaidesh. What's going on over here? Pasuk in Vayikra Chav Beis, pasuk Tes. It says like this: V'shamros mishmarti. They should watch my mishmaras, my watch. V'yisrael of chet. They will not have an avera. Umeisu bai. They'll die in it. Ki chalu because they're mechalalet. Ani Hashem mekadosh. I am Hashem. There is mekadosh them. Very next pasuk. V'chol zar lo yechol kaidesh. A zar doesn't eat kaidesh. So we should say that since it says right there by a zar doesn't eat kaidesh, right when it said zar lo yechol kaidesh, it said umeisu bai ki chalalu, that you should say that by a zar who eats kaidesh, who eats truma, will also be get mitzvah shemayim. So Rav answered no. Ani Hashem mekadosh hifsa kenyan. When it said Ani Hashem mekadosh in the middle, it stops the flow, and therefore the next pasuk that talks about zar is a new paragraph, new topic. I'll read it again so you can see it. The pasuk says first it says umeisu ba ki chalaluhu, he'll die because you're mechalet, and then it says Ani Hashem mekadosh, I'm Hashem mekadosh, and then and that's like the end of the paragraph, and then it says v'chol zar liyechol kaidesh. Then it's zar can't eat kaidesh. So it's a new Indian, so you don't connect the two, and therefore Rav says you don't have a makar to say that somebody who's zar who ate truma is going to get mitzvah shemayim. In fact, the Gemara Meisrael asks you kasha from our Mishnah, from our brisa, the Indian shabamisa. These are the people who get misa. Zara echles truma, a zar who eats truma. In fact, the Gemara Mastisa Karamas, Rav Karamas, you're trying to say a brisa as a kasha onto Rav? Rav Tanuhu Paleg. Rav is a Tana, and he has the stature to argue on a brisa, and therefore he's saying his own shita, and Taka disagrees with the brisa, but he's allowed to disagree with the brisa. You and I cannot disagree with the brisa. Right? Okay. But even a regular Amayra, who we can't disagree with either, he also can't disagree with the brisa. But Rav was able to disagree with the brisa. Rav was the first generation of Amayra. He was the Talmud of Yehuda Nasi. Okay, and even Rav's contemporaries, the Gemara doesn't say that about Shmuel. The Gemara doesn't say Shmuel, Tana, or Pavin, right? Rav and Shmuel were contemporaries, but Rav was special. If you remember, we had the Gemara way back when that was talking about the smicha that Rav got and how Rebbe was machshiv Rav, and we spoke about that Reb Chia wanted Rav to get smicha. That was the whole thing. So Rav was way up there. Okay, Zak the Gemara back to Rezer Shashimesh. The Brisa continued and said a Zor who does the avodah, he gets Kisvei Shmayim. How do you know? The Ksiv of Azar Karab, you must have been first a pasuk. A Zor who does the avodah is going to get killed. The Tamei Shashimesh. Then the Brisa continued and says somebody who's Tamei, Yokayin, but he's Tamei, he did the avodah, he gets Kisvei Shmayim. The Ksiv, I'm sorry, Kidibayim Minei Rav Chia Barav and Rav Yosef, like the Shaila of Chia Barav and asked from Rav Yosef. V'nayin the Tamei Shashimesh Shubim Misa. How do you know a Tamei who did the avodah is going to get Misa? The Ksiv, the pasuk says as follows: Daber el Aaron ben Banav, speak to Aaron and his sons. V'yinozru mikachim bnei Yisrael. They should separate from the kachim of bnei Yisrael. V'leichalu Hashem kachi, and they shouldn't be mechalo the name of my holiness. So the Yinozru being separating themselves means they shouldn't do the avodah. They should separate themselves from doing the avodah. So you see from here that a tamei is not allowed to do avodah. And how do you see it's Misnei Shemayim? The Yalav Chil Chil Mitruma. You learn out Chil Chil, the same as Zer Shava, because over here also it says Chilul. It says V'lo Yechadalu Hashem Kachi. So it said you learn out Chil Chil from Truma. And Mala Alon B'Misa. We said somebody who's tamei who eats Truma is going to get Misnei Shemayim. Avkan B'Misa here also it's Misnei Shemayim. Fraklamar, the same kasha we said before. Let's learn out the same Zer Shava from Neisar. V'nei Chil Chil Neisar. Let's learn out Zer Shava from Chilul from Neisar and say Malalam Karas, Afkan Karas, just like over there, the person is going to get Karas for being Iver. Over here also will get Karas over here for being Iver. The Gemara says no. Similar to what before. Mistavra makes sense with Truma Havlei Melech. You should learn out a Tamei who does the Avodah B'Tuma from Truma. Why? Because you have similarities. That what? Shkein Guf. There, first of all, both of them are in the Kain's body. One is that he is he's what?
Guf is tamei.
One is the Guf is tamei, and the other is the Guf is doing the avodah. Right? I'm sorry. You're right. Both of them, the Guf is tamei. Right? He's tamei who ate his psul and his Guf, and tamei who did the avodah, the psul and his Guf. Mashen kimay nicer, the psul is in the thing. Next one is Tamei. They're both psulim of Tumah, and Neisar is not a psul of Tumah. Mikvah, that they both could go into the mikvah and be matar themselves, and Neisar you can't be matar. And Barabim it says Yichalaluhu, and Yichalalu blushin Rabim. Mash'ain Kain by Neisar with Yichila, like we saw before, and Zashin Yachid. So you have these four things, and that there's similarities to say that it makes sense to say that you should learn out you should learn out Zar Shashimesh Tamei Shashimesh from a Tamei who ate Truma. Mar says no, Adrab, all the way around. There are similarities that are unique to Neisar that are very similar between somebody who is Tamei who did Avodah and somebody and Neisar. What are they? Shekein Kodesh. One of them is that he's being Isaac in Kachem. By Tamei Shashimesh, she's doing Avodah with Kachem, and in Neisar he's doing Avodah with Kachem. Mashenkin by Truma, that's not Kachem. By Tamei who ate Truma, it's not Kachem. Pnim, by Neisar and by Tamei Shashimesh is being done inside the Beis HaMikdash. Mashenkin by Truma, it doesn't have to do with Beis HaMikdash at all. It could be in Beit Shemesh, wherever it is. Pigol v'Neisar, and by Neisar and Pig and Tamei Shashimesh, you could have the Averis of Pigol and Neisar. But you can't have these things by Tamei who ate Truma. So now the Gemara can't say the teretz that it said in Amud Aleph. On Aleph, the Gemara says, we have more similarities this way and less similarities that way. We had 7-2, so we go with the 7. The Gemara can't say that over here because here it's 4-4. So the Gemara says the same terrace that Ravina said before. Chilul drabim, mechilul drabim adef. It makes sense to learn Xer Shava from the same word. The word is more similar, where they're both lashon rabim, rather than say from to Neisar, where it was Kaidesh Shem Chile lashon Yachid. That's not. We wouldn't compare it. That's the Gemara for Tamei Shishimish. Now the Gemara keeps on going. Tvul Yom Shishimish. A Tvul Yom who is waiting to go to the mikveh at night and have Erev Shemesh. I'm sorry, he went to the mikveh already, but he was waiting for the night to come and have Erev Shemesh, and then he'll be tahar. He gets Mitzvah Shemaim if he did the I think it has to be dar. I think that's the whole point of the Mishnah on the Beis Hamad Aleph and Brachas, right? You have to wait till night to do. That's when the Kohanim come in. They have to come in then to because they're waiting for Erev Shemesh.
Good try though.
Good try. Yeah. So the Gemara says, Minal, and how do you know this? In time you learn in the Brayser. Rabbi Simai says, Remez l'Tvul Yom Shem Avad Chilel Minayin. How do you know a remez for Tvul Yom that if he did the avodah he was mechalel? It's a problem. Minayin Tam Leimer Kedoshim Yiyu Leilekeihem. They should be kaddish to their Hashem. Lo Yichalalu, and they shouldn't be mechalel. And the pasuk over there is not necessary. We already know that they shouldn't be mechalel when they're tamei, because we said from the Gemara said before, for you learn at tamei shishimish mivi nazru. So what's this pasuk coming to tell you? That says you should be kadosh when you're doing the avodah. Today when you learn tvul yaim shishimish, say that it's going back tvul yaim that was mishamish. V'yalav chil mitruma. We learn out chil from Truma, and once you have Xer Shava of Chil to Truma, and you say Malalan b'misa, Afkan b'misa over here, you say that over here also by Tvul Yom Shishimish, that will get Misvei Shemayim. Okay, next thing in the Brayso. Kapara. If somebody who's waiting to have his kapara didn't have the carbon yet, that's going to be mechaper for him, not allowed to do that avodah. And if he does gets Misvei Shemayim. Minal, and how do you know? Rav Huna says they have a pasuk. This is talking about a Yoledes, that she's tamei until the kohen brings the Yoledes or a zava. I think it's talking about a zava. Where's the pasuk? Where to go? I skipped the Gemara. Advice you let me skip a Gemara. Go back. Four lines from the wide lines. I skipped a second, 2 dots. Let's go back. Mechusar begadim. Somebody who's mechusar begadim means he didn't have all the begadim of the kayin on him, either the 4 begadim or the 8 begadim if he's a kayin gadol. Manal. And how do you know that if he does not avoid that way, he gets a piece of shemayim? And some came to this not from Rabbi Yechanan but in the name of Rav Lazar Reb Shimon. V'chigarta oisam avneit v'goymer. It says in the pasuk, v'chigarta oisam avneit. You should wrap them. Rebbeinu Shalom's telling Moshe. These are our parshas right now. Rebbeinu Shalom's telling Moshe that you should put the avneit, the gartel, around the koyanim when he was doing the Chanukas Habayis of the Mishkan, and it says v'chigarta oisam avneit Aaron uvanav. The chavash put on their hats, and it should be for them the kahuna as a chukas olam. So it says, put on the clothing, and then it'll be for you kahuna. And you learn out. The Gemara says, when they're wearing their begadim, the begadim of the kain gadol or the kain hadiyat, kahunasam aleim, they're kahanim. Ein b'gdeim aleim, if their begadim are not on them. In kunasam aleihim, their kahuna is not on them.
And like being off duty, on duty.
Yeah, and v'havulu huzarim. but they're like Zarin if they do the avodah this way. And Amar Mar Zar Shashimish b'Misa, and we said that if Zar does the avodah, he's going to get Misa. So a Kohen who does the avodah without his 4 begadim is going to get Misa b'Dei Shemayim. Now let's go to the Gemara of Mechusar Kapara. Mechusar Kapara Minal. And how do you know the halacha by somebody who didn't bring their carbon that they get Misa b'Dei Shemayim, and then do the avodah they get Misa b'Dei Shemayim? Amar Avuna Amar Kra, the pasuk says v'chipra aleha kohen v'tehera. The kohen is going to be mechaper on her, and the pasuk is v'mloisim to yada deisaf. She can't afford to have a sheep. L'kachash teisern mashnei b'nei yana. She should take 2 pigeons or 2 doves, echad loyel v'echad l'chatas, and one for an oil and one for chatas. V'chipra aleha kohen, and then the kohen will do the kapara, and then v'tehera shall be tar. So you see that until you bring the kapara, you're not considered tahera. So the where it says v'chibra akayin v'tehera tahera miklal she tameya. You see that until now she was tamei. V'amar mar, and we said before tamei shishimish b'misa. The tamei who does the avodah is going to have misa. Then the Gemara continues and says from the Brayso which le'rach yadayim raglaim, the person who didn't wash his hands and feet before the avodah. How do you know this? Minalan. The ksiv, the pasuk says b'vayim la'il ma'id. When they come, the Kainim, when they come to the Elmaid, they should wash with the water, and then they won't die. That's mashma, that if they don't wash with the water, they will die. They're going to be Shmai. And how do you know that somebody who's Kainim does the Avodah is going to get while he's drunk, while he drank too much, will be chayiv misvei shmaim. The ksiv, the pasuk says yain v'sheicher al teish v'gaimer. The pasuk says yain v'sheicher al teish atu v'nechitach. This is the parsha right after Achreimais, right before Achreimais. Right after another one of you were died because they were vayikri v'eish zara, the Rebbeinu Shalom said to Aaron HaKohen, yain v'sheicher al teish atu v'necha. You and your sons shouldn't drink wine. Itach with you v'lei samusu, and you won't die. Mashma, if a person does drink it, he will die, like happened to Nadav and Avihu. Upurei Reish, if you let this hair grow too long, more than a month, how do you know that that's Misvei Shemaim? The Ksiv, the pasuk says Reishim le'yigalechu, v'pera le'yishlechu. It says in the pasuk that if they didn't let their hair grow, they didn't cut their hair, and they let their hair grow. They didn't get rid of their para. They didn't get rid of the extra hair. And it says right after that, the next pasuk, yain lo yishtu, and they shouldn't drink wine. So iskish pru roish l'shtu yain. It makes a hakash between people who let their hair grow, kahanim who let their hair grow, to kahanim who drink wine before and they do that avodah. Mashtu yain b'misa pru roish b'misa. And we say just like somebody who drinks wine and does the avodah gets misvei shemaim, so too some pru roish b'misa. Some people who let their hair grow will get misvei shemaim. These are all the things the Brayso said that a person will be chayiv misvei shemaim for. Now the Brayso pivoted and said, well, we have a couple of things that if you do them, they're asur, they're alav, but they're not misvei shemaim. What are they? Somebody who is a kohen, who's an arul, he didn't have a bris milah, and he did the avodah, or he's an einan and he did the avodah, yoshev, or he did the avodah when he's sitting, b'azhara, they'll only get a lav. Arul melan. How do you know that a kohen has to be have a bris milah to the avodah? Amar Rav Chisda says, Davar zem teres Moshe Rabbeinu l'elmanu. This is not the first in the pasuk. We don't have a pasuk about this. We don't learn this from Moshe Rabbeinu. Ad sheba Yecheskel ben Buzi, until Yecheskel and Avi came, v'lamadnu, when he taught us, the pasuk says in Yecheskel, Kol ben nechar ara leiv, aral basar liyavel mikdashi. A ben nechar ara leiv, what does that mean? Rashi says a ben nechar is a kohen who did avodah zara, and a kohen who did avodah zara is like an ara leiv. It's like his heart is covered. Right? He's estranged from the Rebbeinu Shalom. Right? An Arul is covered. Right? So his heart is covered up. He's not close to the Rebbeinu Shalom. So somebody who does avodah, kohen who does avodah zara, Aral Basar, and Aral Basar means that he doesn't have a bris milah. His flesh is still Aral. And even though it was an Einus, even though his brothers died and he couldn't get a bris milah, he can't come to my base and mikdash.
It's not good to go to avodah.
Lo yochel, but you can't eat. That doesn't say about avodah.
So we can't eat. You still can't do the avodah. more calm than being a
I
carbon.
don't know. Let me ask you a question. If an oral brings a carbon shlamim, is he allowed to eat from it? I don't know Zvachim yet. We'll get up to it in Mr. Hashem, but I don't remember any Yisr for an oral to eat another carbon. That's something special by Pesach. Yeah. Okay. So L'maisa, we learned this from Yecheskel and Busi. We learned this from the Divrei Kabbalah, and which is from Nevi'im. And the halacha is you can't learn out an einish from Divrei Kabbalah. So you see, you don't do it. You can't do it, but you can't give the person malchus or misudei shemayim. Einan v'nalan. How do you know that someone who's an einan can't do the avodah? The Ksiv, the pasuk says this is also going by when other Venavi were nifter. When the mikdash lo yetzi lo yichalas mikdash lo kav. Aaron HaKohen was not allowed to go out of the Beis Hamikdash, and it was mashma that if he would go out, he'd be mechal as mikdash. He can't go out from Beis Hamikdash. He has to stay doing the avodah, and it's okay. He won't be mechal as mikdash lo kav. It won't be a chilul in Migdash Halakav. Ha'achar, but somebody else who wasn't an Einan, Shalo Yatsa, and didn't go out, so he's even though he's an Einan, Ha'achar who is an Einan, that I might have said it backwards. Ha'achar, somebody who's Einan, just like Aaron HaKohen was then, but Shalo Yatsa, he didn't go out because he wasn't the kind of girl that the said straight to him, don't go out. Chilal, he is Mechalel. So you see that an Aral Basar shouldn't come, you see that the Einan shouldn't come to do the Avodah in the Beis Hamikdash. Why are you saying that it's only a lav and you don't have Misa Shemaim? Let's learn Chil from Truma and say Malalan b'Misa, Kan b'Misa. Just like over there it's Misa Shemaim, over here also it's Misa Shemaim. After the Gemara, does it say by the person himself who's doing the Aveira of the word Chila? What does it say? Aaron HaKohen who's staying is not Mechalo. Mashma that a different Kohen who stays when he's an Ayin is Mechalo. So the Chil, when it says V'lo Yechalo, it's not talking about the person doing the Isser. It's talking about Aaron HaKohen who's not doing the Isser. B'Klalokasi, you learn it out from what's the way you'd say it? You infer it. It's a diuk from the pasuk. And it's something that comes from a klal, from an inference. Something that comes from a klal in done nice of Xer Shava. You can't use that for Xer Shava. And how do you know that somebody who's sitting can't do that avodah? Amar Nachman, the pasuk says, because in him Hashem chose from all your shvatim lamed the sharis to stand to do the service of the avodah. Hashem says, I picked him for Amida for standing, yeshiva, and not for sitting. And Rashi brings down that the Gemara brings on Zvachim this thing and says, how come you don't learn out from the other ones that we said that a yeshiv is like a zar, and say just like a yeshiv is just like a zar gets misa, let's say this also gets misa. And the Gemara comes out over there that the a zar, somebody who didn't wash his hands or feet, and somebody who drinks wine before, it's shleisha ksuma bam ke'echad, and the halach is shleisha ksuma bam ke'echad im alamdan. So you can't learn out from there to over here to yeshiva that is chayim mitzvah shemaim, and that's why for yeshiva it's going to be just a lav. And that brings us to the end of this daf. We got a little ahead, and B'ez Hashem tomorrow we will continue.